If you're a woman over 60, there's something happening around you that almost no one talks about honestly. One day, without warning, the world gets quieter. Fewer people ask your opinion. Fewer people rush to impress you. Fewer eyes linger. And at first, that silence can feel like loss, like something has been taken. But here's the truth most never realize: that quiet is not erasure. It's freedom. It's the moment the performance ends. When you're young, you're constantly being measured by how you look, how fast you move, how agreeable you are, how useful you seem. Over time, that measuring fades, and most people panic when it does. They cling. They try to stay visible at all costs. They overcompensate. But rare women pause. They notice the stillness, and instead of shrinking, they step into themselves. They begin living from the inside out instead of the outside in. They stop asking, "How am I being seen?" and start asking, "How do I want to feel?" That shift changes everything. It's subtle, but once it happens, you can't unsee it. You become harder to manipulate, harder to rush, harder to define. And that kind of presence doesn't need attention to be powerful. It carries its own weight. At some point, something else falls away too: the reflexive apology, the automatic sorry for existing at your own pace, sorry for asking questions, sorry for needing rest, sorry for not understanding the new rules fast enough, sorry for taking up space. Most women were trained to soften themselves long before they ever realized they were doing it. And for decades, apologizing felt like politeness, like survival, like being good. But rare women reach a point where the apologies stop, not out of anger, not out of defiance, but out of clarity. They realize they don't owe the world smallness, they don't owe speed, they don't owe cheerfulness. They speak when they have something to say, and they're comfortable with silence when they don't. They don't rush to fill gaps. They don't explain themselves into exhaustion. And when they say no, it's clean. No long story, no guilt-laced justification, just no. That kind of self-possession can unsettle people who are used to women shrinking. But it also commands respect in a way nothing else does. Because a woman who no longer apologizes for existing is a woman who knows she belongs here. Then there's the proving. The endless draining need to show that you're still relevant, still capable, still worth listening to. So many women carry that burden quietly, especially as they age. They try to demonstrate usefulness. They overextend. They say yes when their body says no. They stay in conversations that drain them just to feel included. Rare women put that down. They stop auditioning for value. They understand that they don't need to convince anyone of their worth. Not their children, not society, not strangers. They choose peace over being right. They walk away from arguments that don't nourish them. They let misunderstandings stand if correcting them would cost too much energy. This isn't weakness, it's discernment. It's knowing that peace is not something you earn. It's something you protect. And once a woman learns that, her life gets lighter, quieter, clearer. She becomes selective in the best way. Her yes means something. Her no carries weight. And she stops bleeding energy into places that never planned to give anything back. And then there is what happens behind closed doors, the part no one posts about. Rare women continue to care for themselves even when no one is watching, not out of vanity, not out of fear, but out of self-respect. They tend to their space because chaos seeps into the mind. They wash their face, drink water, move their body gently, keep routines that anchor them. They understand that neglect starts small. It starts with skipping meals, letting clutter pile up, staying in pajamas all day not because it's restful but because it's easier. And they know how quickly that can turn into something heavier. So they intervene early. They choose care over collapse. They don't wait for someone else to notice them struggling. They show up for themselves quietly, consistently, and over time, that care shows, not in perfection, but in presence, in how they carry themselves, in the steadiness of their energy, in the way they move through the world without asking permission. Curiosity is the quiet superpower most women lose first. After 60, it's easy to stop asking questions, stop exploring, stop leaning into the unfamiliar. The world feels too fast, too overwhelming, too exhausting. And some women respond by closing up. They grow rigid. They cling to routines like armor. They stop trying to understand new ideas, new people, new ways of thinking. But rare women refuse. They stay curious. They ask questions just because they're interesting. They try small, new things, even when it feels uncomfortable. They read articles they wouldn't have considered before. They listen to music or watch shows that feel outside their comfort zone. They remain open to life in ways that many of their peers have long abandoned. Curiosity keeps their minds soft, their energy light, their perspective fresh. It keeps them awake to the richness that life still offers, no matter how many years have passed. And the rarest part? They do it without needing to prove anything. They explore quietly, joyfully, and without the weight of expectation. That willingness to remain engaged, to remain playful, to remain learning, makes them remarkable. It draws people in. It makes them magnetic. It makes them alive in a way that is rare for their age. Loneliness is another arena where most women stumble. After 60, it can hit with a weight that surprises you. Children are grown. Partners may be gone. Friends move, change, or fade. Some seasons leave rooms that feel empty, and loneliness can whisper lies. Something is wrong with you. You must be unworthy. You're forgotten. Rare women feel it. They acknowledge it. They honor it. But they do not let it define them. They accept that this is part of life, not a punishment. They create rituals that bring meaning, walking in the morning light, calling someone they care about, tending a garden, reading a book that nourishes their spirit. They build a life that feels full even when it's quiet. They show up for themselves even when no one else does, and that capacity to hold their own company, to find richness inside themselves, is astonishingly rare. Most people flee from loneliness or let it fester into bitterness. Rare women turn it into strength, into clarity, into resilience. That is what makes them unforgettable. Then there is the relationship with the past. Most people carry decades of regret like a suitcase they never unpack. Every mistake, every lost opportunity, every foolish decision gets weighed, measured, and replayed endlessly. Rare women do something different. They speak kindly to themselves about who they were. They acknowledge missteps without letting them define the present. I did the best I could with what I knew then, they say. They recognize that they were learning, evolving, surviving, even when they failed. They forgive themselves for staying too long, for speaking too little, for choosing poorly, for trusting too easily. They don't erase the past. They don't romanticize it. They simply place it behind them and step forward with a gentleness that most never achieve. That internal peace, that self-compassion radiates outward. It softens their interactions, elevates their presence, and frees them to be fully themselves without the chains of regret. Finally, there is a truth that cannot be overstated. Their value is no longer negotiable. Rare women over 60 know something essential and unshakable. Their worth does not come from productivity, beauty, or the approval of others. It does not depend on being needed, admired, or admired again. It is inherent. They do not beg for respect. They do not bargain for attention. They do not shrink themselves to fit into expectations that were never theirs to begin with. They know their value is absolute, and that knowledge changes everything. It gives them freedom in conversation, freedom in choice, freedom in love, freedom in life. It allows them to walk through the world fully present, fully embodied, fully alive. That kind of confidence is rare. It is magnetic. It is undeniable. And if even one of these qualities, curiosity, self-respect, peace, courage, forgiveness, intrinsic value, lives in you, you are already becoming something extraordinary, something rare, something remarkable.